get to it.
I remember you telling, like you said something.
Okay. The time is now 6 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Alexander, will you please lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up is approval of the agenda. I will actually make the motion to amend the agenda, removing information discussion item B, procurement discussion for consolidation project, as Tyler is not able to be with us tonight to go over that. So we will move that. So then the motion is to approve the agenda with the amendment. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approval of the minutes for January 11th, 2023, the business meeting, and January 25th, 2023, the work study session. Are there any comments or discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes for January 11th, 2023 business meeting and January 25th, 2023 work study session.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is informational reports. We'll start with Dr. J.
Madam President, members of the board and guests, thank you. It's been 2 days since I did comment, so I had to dig deep today. So anyway, just want to give a shout out to our winter sports programs. They're doing really well. And I've been able to go to quite a bit of the events and see them. And a special shout out to our boys basketball team, being undefeated and playing tonight. So they're going to continue that on into the playoffs. So very proud of Coach Bonner and all of our athletes on the boys basketball team, and all of our winter sports are doing great work. We had an update. We'll have another update tomorrow from Orcutt Winslow, but for guests, we are meeting weekly with Orcutt Winslow, our architect, about the consolidation and plans for the new McDowell Mountain Elementary School, which will be at the middle school campus next year. And I'm just blown away at their ideas and what they're coming with. It's going to be an absolute amazing school. Lots of things are still, we're working out details, but I can assure you that there will be a very nice wow factor when people go through the school come August when it's hopefully finished. We're continuing to register for kindergarten and preschool. We had another event last night. We had a good showing last night. I took all the parents on a tour of what the kindergarten is going to look like next year and a vision of what the school will look like. We're going to continue to have additional registration. We're trying to find a good time. 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. so far have been, we've gotten some, but I think we might need to look at a little bit later time in the evening after dinner. So we're seeing good numbers at preschool so far, which is encouraging, and we're just getting started. So excited about that. She's not here tonight, but we did hire a payroll specialist. Her name is Christy Fuda, and she comes with lots of experience and is a local resident. So we're very excited for Christy to join our team. And lastly, we've been working hard on our strategic plan. We have a team of our staff from all 3 sites working on coming up with a plan for the future where we want to see our district head. So more to come. I hope is that by the end of the school year we'll be able to present a final draft to the board. With that, I conclude my comments.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. J regarding his comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to governing board reports. We'll start with Mr. Saar.
What's on my mind is always technology, so you're going to get hit with it again. And you've been reading the news, you know that artificial intelligence is changing everything, and it will definitely change how we teach and how we learn when it comes to software products like the chatbot. We're using that in my class now. I figured out how to grade their efforts and not just the computer's efforts, but it's going to change everything we do in education and many, many other occupations. Some are going to be have to regroup a little bit, and others are going to go crazy with it. So those things are on my mind all the time.
Ms. Aker?
Well, I attended our meeting on Monday with everybody else to plan ahead for the year. And I did go once again to the, it's lattes at the elementary school, not coffee. So I was there, and it was very interesting finding out about the kindergarten roundup.
Mrs. Sepp?
I got to go to my first basketball game and watch the boys in action, and it was a great game, super exciting. Some of my kids went with me, and I just applaud the boys basketball and all of their efforts, and Coach Bonner. It's a great game.
Ms. Reed?
The kids and I were able to participate in the Falcon Fun Run and the Pancake Breakfast, which was a great event. There was a good turnout and lots of energy there, which was fun. And then I too went to the Coffee with Cameron Lattes with Latona. I think that's a great opportunity for parents to be involved, just a candid discussion. I highly encourage parents to make time and go to all the coffees. I think that that's an awesome opportunity for our community members and parents. The kids and I went to the basketball game as well. We only made it to the varsity game, but those boys were very impressive. It was exciting to watch. It was a close game most of the time. And I left with my daughter wanting to play basketball and be a cheerleader, so that says a lot about our students. And then I've had several meetings with some business owners and leaders of community groups that are eager to help our students. And I just love the support that I get when I'm out talking to community members and these important leaders. And then the kids and I did a booth at the Presby Pickens Market. And that was another great opportunity. We saw several district employees, we saw several students. Again, great conversations with people. And it's amazing the support there is, whether it was in the form of the bond and override, or whether it's been direct donations or a donation of time or services and supplies. Like people, we live in a beautiful town full of beautiful people that are really eager to work together for our school. And then I too went to the board retreat on Monday, and we went over the SWOT. And to me, I left there feeling very positive because I feel like we have a lot of opportunities. Like I think even though we, obviously there's going to be struggles with anything, but I think we've made good progress, and I think that there's just so many opportunities to continue in that direction, and I'm looking forward to it.
So all of us participated on Monday in the board retreat. We try and do that once or twice a year. We actually still have our SWOT up there. That's just a small part of what was actually discussed, but feel free to read what the board wrote and where we feel that our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. Those created more discussion, so just because it's not up there doesn't mean that we didn't necessarily discuss it. You can watch the whole retreat on YouTube. But those are talking points that got the discussion started on what the board, feels that we need to move forward, setting our goals come this fall, providing information to Dr. J so that he can set his goals and then on down to the staff. So feel free to read that. And then I would also just like to thank the Times because over the last few weeks, I've just noticed great articles regarding our school. George is doing a wonderful job. Thanks, George. I just read one today regarding the boys basketball team, and I love to see all the players called out for all the amazing things they do. Kids love to see themselves in the paper. It's really important to them. It's a great self-esteem booster, and our boys are playing amazing right now, as are the other teams. So, thank you, George, for doing that. And then there was a great article regarding the football field. Coach Zahner and everybody that's working hard to try and make that happen, along with some information provided by Dr. J, that's still an ongoing project, and everybody's working hard to make that work so that the kids can play at their own home field. So with that, we'll move on. We will hear a presentation from Mr. Hartman, the high school principal.
Thank you.
You're not
Are you plugging in your computer
I
or?
was just gonna pull up my email.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay, so you're gonna have to log out of Meet and, yeah.
It's not pulling up. Do you wanna try your? You're talking about chatbots. I can't even,
Just ask the question, we'll give you the answer.
I can do it on here, yeah.
She's got your back.
As usual.
I mean, it's
I was gonna
slow
say,
getting
do you wanna take
it.
that?
Thank you. Let me know when you have it up and
It's up.
No, I think you just lost the.
Oh, the cord.
The
This
cord
is
went
starting
down.
out great.
I got it.
Who's in charge of the
Technology always, when it works, it's good.
Gotta plug it in.
I got it.
His presentation's gonna be amazing. Well
So,
worth it.
this is actually planned. It's supposed to show the teamwork.
There you go.
Great. Oh, nope, it's gone. Oh, there it is. Great. Okay, so,
There it is.
who's controlling the big version? Perfect.
Thanks, Jessica.
So I work at Fountain Hills High School. And thank you for the opportunity, Madam President, board members, Dr. J. I'm not sure it was an opportunity, I think it was required, but opportunity sounded better. We're going to go over, I shared this with the staff today, and they got some good feedback. A lot of uncertainty right now, a lot of moving parts. I think, Dr. J's been great about, coming out of COVID fog, whatever you want to call it, the last 3 years, kind of looking forward, and what we want to do as a school. Going to kind of share here, where we are and some things we've accomplished and also where we want to go. So we have our mission statement. We'll talk about student behavior, the things that guide us, the Falcon Way and PBIS, and then goals and objectives, and then question and comments, if you have any, at the end. So our mission statement, to provide a safe, inclusive learning environment with challenging academics and extracurricular activities for all students. You'll hear me talk about involvement. It's the way I learn, kinesthetically, involvement. Sometimes I have to mess up and learn what I'm going to do better. Sometimes I have to do well and learn what I'm going to keep doing. We believe a lot of students learn this way, increasing clubs, increasing activities. We have 8 clubs right now. We'd love to double that by next year. I met with Miss Reed and Scott Summer. Last week, was that last week? Weeks blend together, sorry. Hoopcoming week last week, and we're looking for ways to kind of bridge that gap. We have our high achieving students, we have our at-risk students, but I also believe we have a group in there that is just looking for their niche, if you will. And we're really trying to bridge that gap. Behavior, really going back a year, these are major incidents. We're especially proud of June and July, if you notice. So I think I jinxed February. At press time, it was 0. It is now 1. And I've been pretty transparent about this. I've talked about it before. August and September were busy, exciting months. And we, through supervision, teamwork, and really holding kids accountable, if you look at the decrease there in the ensuing months, again, not wanting to jinx anything, but I feel like the teamwork at the school and the procedures we put in place, fire alarms, frankly, detecting vape certainly helped send the message that this wasn't going to be tolerated on campus. So we believe because of that it's become safer. These are our guiding pillars. I know you're probably inundated with these two terms, but they really do apply in life, if you will, in the classroom, really in every interaction we have with kids. Dr. J says all the time, talks about being nice, and it may sound simplistic, but it's really true. We have tried to, all being former teachers, make every interaction in the principal's office or assistant principal's office or dean's office be a teachable moment. We do believe that you can deliver consequences nicely and respectfully. It should not be a place where kids fear going, but know that they're going to go if they make an unfortunate choice. And they may face a consequence, but we will be respectful, and we expect the same from our staff and from our kids. So we see a little bit of redundancy with the Falcon Way and PBIS, but I actually love that because I don't think you can overstate these terms. So with every interaction, we make sure to bring one of these terms into our teachable moment, whether it's teachers in the classroom or us when we are delivering consequences. We give life examples. We sometimes talk about poor choices we made when we were in school. We're not shy about that, so we don't seem robotic like we were born principals. The only person who was born looking like this and a principal is Mr. Alexander. The rest of us were once, we made mistakes. So we bring these terms, and the kids may roll their eyes a bit because they're tired of hearing about it, but I've also had kids that graduated last year quoting the Falcon Way, that were here when Dr. J was here, that come to watch soccer games or come to graduation. They still talk about the Falcon Way, so we're going to continue that. Our longer term goals and objectives, we want to regain that A rating, currently at a B. Students will be challenged and excel according to their abilities, so maybe if you don't have AP or honors class ability, you can excel in regular classes, and that's okay. If you don't want to go to college and you want to go into a trade or want to go to work right away, that's okay. The goal would be exiting our school system prepared for the next level of learning. Teachers, and they were receptive to this today, will continually advance their practice by using research-based professional strategies that are proven effective, collaborate, and then kind of when I came up for air yesterday, after my first month as principal, I realized how much this community wanted to help. So Coalition, Kiwanis, Chamber of Commerce, so many others we'd like to involve either by sponsoring a club with a faculty member and then just helping kids realize what else is out there. Kind of goal one, the detailed plan for getting back to that A label really comes down to graduation rate for us. We want to continue to do well on statewide assessments, showing student growth, get that graduation rate above 95%, make sure students are on track, and overall performance significantly higher than state average. I do think COVID years had an impact on that and the online and being at home, but they're used to being back in the classroom now and we want to take advantage of that. We have certainly started the monthly senior meetings, but we also are tracking every grade level monthly to make sure by the time they get to their sophomore or junior or senior year, they're not already behind. Goal two, continue challenging academic rigor and excel according to their abilities. The things I just mentioned, in addition to graduation rate, decreasing the remediation, specifically in mathematics and English language arts. Raise AP enrollment. Like I mentioned before, I'd like to double our student clubs, hopefully to 20 by next year with the community involvement. Also, in one of these board meetings coming up, you'll see our course proposals for next year, increasing electives on campus. The last one may be a little ambitious, but I feel like, I'm not even sure, but I feel like the perfect enrollment for the high school is between 700 and 800. We're currently about 500 with in-person and virtual. And I changed the amount of years on the PowerPoint exactly 6 times today because I just couldn't figure out how long we needed to do that, so I settled on 4 to 5, but it could be less. I'm not quite sure there. I'll take feedback on that. For goal 3, this really involves teacher education. We all know there are many teachers that are rigorous. There are some that could be more rigorous. We're constantly in classrooms doing walkthroughs. We are constantly in there doing observations, giving feedback. We want to increase the PD. With the grades 6 through 8 coming over, we'd love to do once a month of vertical articulation 6 through 12. So we'd like to have both campuses get together and work together on that. Continue to have AVID strategies school-wide. We had Ms. Kazee and Mr. Bonner present to the staff in October. And right now we're at 100%, have at least done a AVID type assignment. The goal would be 100% using the Wicker strategies. And if you're not into the acronym or you're not in favor of certain acronyms, I would submit, having been a language arts teacher, these strategies really should be used in every classroom, whatever acronym we're going to throw on them. The writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, reading should really be used as effective strategies everywhere. At the beginning of school next year, at the professional development, before the year starts, before the kids get there, we would have a data leadership team consisting of administrator, grade level and content, a counselor, really analyze that data. A lot of times schools will talk about data and then go back to their lives, but the data is sometimes not analyzed. But even if the data is not good, we still have to face that and see how we can get better. So demographics, student learning, everything. And then really be diligent in creating a plan and continuing to review this data. And I guess almost like a good coach who makes in-game adjustments. I feel like with SIP plans and data, it's important to be able to pivot mid-year, mid-month, whenever, and adjust. I think that's what good coaches do, that's what good principals do, that's what good schools do. So if things not going as planned, it's always important to revisit that, and then the scope and sequence in my last point. You have to be able to pivot, adjust responsibilities according to what the data is saying. After school begins, hopefully we'll have time to do this if our discipline is not like it was in August and September, but thinking optimistically, we will provide an overview of the SIP to all staff, and I would submit that Ms. Kane and I are pretty thick-skinned, along with Ms. Wynn, so we're not immune to teacher input, teacher suggestions, hey, this is going to work, this isn't going to work. Continuing the PLCs that we do now on early release days, and really digging in again and asking the question, what do we want students to know and be able to do when they leave here, and being realistic about that, like college, trade, life. I think we all know teenagers who are wonderful in the classroom and wonderful individuals, but we still have questions about them being able to succeed in life. I have two at home myself, and it's a constant project. We want them to be able to survive on their own, and be creative thinkers. And then, as always, modify that school improvement plan, like I said, based on our results. So to summarize ongoing, we're going to continue to monitor student progress, review everything monthly in the PLCs, and then really determining how to support those students who are not proficient. So right now we have reteach, we have varsity tutors, and then we were really encouraged by what Fort McDowell did, not only for students that they require to come to the community center and work, but the week we were off for the water main break, what they were able to accomplish that week while we were gone for their students was very encouraging. So we will continue to do that, as well as ours on PLP, or whatever online platform we continue with. And then those who are proficient, more enrichment, like I said, more electives, including in the core subject areas. Keep updating curriculum. Beyond textbooks is what we use right now as our core. Continue to visit that and revisit that. In terms of safety, we have monthly fire drills, and we will have a lockdown drill very soon, tomorrow, I believe. And we look for teacher feedback, MCSO feedback, security feedback, student feedback, what went wrong, what didn't, that kind of thing. And then continue to monitor the Falcon Way and PBIS, and then I'm working with the coalition right now for the Falcon Promise. Notice the prom. We are signing the pledge before prom this year to celebrate safely and responsibly and stay sober. So there are going to be murals, there's going to be a pledge, and it's going to be kind of an ongoing pledge moving forward year to year. We also have, in the theme of being proactive rather than reactive, a lot of continuing education on drugs and alcohol and the detrimental effects thereof. We are doing one assembly before prom and another guest speaker before prom, someone from the community that has had experience on both sides. After school begins, we will continue to survey students, staff, and parents and get feedback, good and bad, about everything from safety to academic rigor to whatever they're hearing and improve that way. And keep giving the staff surveys during meetings and get their feedback. And be completely transparent about these results, share them, and then really get better in terms of the SIP and our vision just to keep the school climate positive. On the professional learning days, again, we'll always revisit the mission and vision, tie everything back to that, discuss our values, beliefs, purpose, mission, shared vision for everything, curriculum, instruction, assessment, safety. We feel like it's important with all this to always bring teachers back to the core mission and vision so they have a purpose. Create a flow chart, and how will we monitor this and how will it be evaluated? We'll continue to ask that question other than just get feedback. And other than looking at data, is there a better way to monitor this? And then we'll create tools for assessment based on that. This is a quote by Ben Franklin. I put in there because it kind of sums up our philosophy, my philosophy, our philosophy, I think. And it really goes to the core of what we want to do, which is involve every student somewhere. Again, there's that group that show up at 7:29 and leave at 2:21 and kind of do their own thing. We're certainly targeting everyone, but there's that group that just comes and goes to school and goes home that we really want to target and make sure everybody's involved. And then this is our team. There's a typo though because there's not a single brown hair left in the guy. I thought that was slightly inaccurate, but we'll go with it. And Miss Wynn is not here tonight. She has a well-deserved night off, but she is, if you've ever heard her on the announcements, very enthusiastic. So that is her. Questions or comments?
Who wants to start? Madison, do you have questions? I'm sure you do.
I actually have a couple comments. I really like that you have move avid strategies and to promote college readiness for all students. I think that that's really important. And then I like that you have a focus on what do we want students to know and be able to do even after high school. You're not just looking to pass them through, you're looking to really teach them, which I think that that's important and that's what we need here. And when it comes to reviewing and updating curriculum, I guess I do have a question with this one. As far as beyond textbooks go, I know it's kind of fluid as far as what materials are being used to teach. Are you looking at something that's more uniform so that all of the students are kind of learning the same methods and the same things and getting back to maybe like physical textbooks?
We as a team right now, I think we're pleased with what BT is offering. I haven't been approached or kind of delved into the physical textbook for all classes. I know there's an expense there. And again, I spent a lot of time researching BT. It's from down south where I spent 4 years of my formative years. I love the program. I think it's a good skeleton, if you will, and it does give leeway for teachers to kind of use as much or as little as they want. I wouldn't be opposed to physical textbooks if that was raised, but for right now, especially with English and math, we're pretty happy with BT.
And just to comment on that, I know that we called Beyond Textbooks a curriculum, but Beyond Textbooks is actually a resource. It's not actually a curriculum. It provides resources for the standards. It unlocks the standards. So it's not actually a curriculum, so to speak. They don't have a book that goes along with it or anything like that. So I just want to be clear on that it's not a curriculum, it's a resource.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
Since I brought it here. Really what we use BT for most is the planning of how to get through the year with your state standards, okay? And if you're, you're a history teacher and you get stuck in World War II, first 4 months, you're not getting where you need to be. So what it does is it provides a calendar for all teachers to collaboratively work together, hit those same standards, be able to all offer reteach at the same time, and make sure that we're spending the right amount of time on each thing as we're moving forward throughout the year, so that you are, experts have gone back and looked at how long does this standard need to be in place, and then they share that with us as a small district. We don't have a curriculum department. We all do it collectively, so that was where the partnership came in. The resources are very, very seldomly used by our teachers, and I would just say that I've seen over the years, they really just use the calendars and each other and collaboratively work together. And we do have textbooks. We use textbooks. The idea is not to get rid of them. It's that we're going beyond just that. We're using internet. We're using documents. We're using primary sources. So it's a collective thing. It's confusing for the person who hasn't seen it, but overall, remember when we went to that program, we went from a C to an A in 2 years. Okay, so if we're about academic excellence, this program has collectively done it, not just for us, but for, I think they have 100 partners, something like that, across not only just in Arizona, but even out of state now. They've moved on to there because of the success of it. So we can always talk more about that in the future, but it has been very successful for our district.
Do you have any more questions?
Libby?
First, thank you, Ms. Kane and Mr. Hartman, for your efforts in the presentation. It was great. I actually have 2 questions. One was you touched on raising our graduation rate to above 95%. Do we know what it is today?
What it was last year,
Yeah.
I think it was right around 80, if I'm not mistaken, so, yeah.
80?
And in that number, I mean, you probably know this, but it does include people that have left, if they're not enrolled somewhere else, and they leave us in their underclass years, so. This year, again, we're monitoring the seniors very closely. I'm optimistic that this year will certainly, well, I'm not certain of anything, but I'm optimistic that it'll be above 90 this year.
Because in that 80, I think we've touched on it before, and correct me if I'm wrong, it includes kids that maybe started in kinder and we lost them in a transfer.
And I can speak to that.
Okay.
So anyone who leaves our district, if they don't enroll in another school, we take that hit on our graduation rate. So one thing that's really important is to track every kid who leaves. I've worked with the team on doing that moving forward, so that's already done. Second thing is that we do have kids who have an IEP who do not graduate when they should, and we've been hit on those students as well as non-graduates. And Patrick and I have in the past had to write appeals to get them taken off that graduation rate. At a school with a graduation class of 100, 110, every kid is almost a percentage point, right? So I think when we go back, and Mr. Ostrander and I have already started looking at last year's graduation rate, not we could do about last year, but we looked at, there might be some ways to look at that, and there might be some inconsistencies there that we may be able to appeal, but most moving forward, you have to be at a 90% or higher to be considered for an A letter grade. So I have worked with their team and gave them, kind of a playbook of how it's been done in the past. We've always traditionally been 93, 94%, going back all the way to 2017. And so it's just a matter of, putting in that effort and making sure that people are following those kids all the way through, and starting at a younger age, which they're already doing now, will change that. So I think all the things that need to be fixed have already been done, but it's going to take a year or two to see the fruit of that work.
And in essence, it's not truly a good depiction of what our graduation rate is.
No, and you're also looking at a graduation class that came out of COVID too, right? So you had kids who left and maybe did not come back. We had students who fell very far behind on credits, and you get points for students if they graduate in year 5 and all the way up to year 6 as well. That comes back to the letter grade. So, and overall though, where we need to be, we need to track every student. We need to use our online credit recovery courses in the right way. But this is part of why I'm going to be bringing you a new high school schedule soon to look at, because in this high school schedule, What we're doing is we're putting in safeguards. When a kid fails a class, they'll be able to go right back into that class and not have to wait for credit recovery. And by graduating with more credits than you need, you will naturally have more graduates. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're going to overextend it.
Great. And then my last one is just a point of clarification. So in your presentation, if a community member wanted to come and sponsor a club with a staff member, they can or they can't? Because I thought students had to initiate that. Is that?
Yeah, so we would have students, we would look for student interest in that particular club, have them initiate that, and then a staff member has to be the official sponsor. But my hope is, because teachers are very busy, and I had a discussion with a staff member today about, what we often discuss, pay, and the staff member, the whole time in sponsoring a club versus compensation, and the teachers are busy right now, and the indicators are that the community member, if appropriate, would take on the majority of the work, and the staff member could be, the official observer and be involved as much as he or she wanted. So.
But the student would actually have to come and say, I'd like this
Correct.
club, before a community member is coming in and trying to initiate that interest.
Correct.
Thank you.
Lillian? I like your whole presentation. It's very good, and I like the rigor for everybody. And you're talking about professional development for the teachers within the buildings. What about them being able to go to conferences and everything too?
Yeah, so budgets permitting, that would be great. Subs permitting, that would be great. If the circumstances were right, and we do occasionally do that, those two things permitting. In the present circumstance, we're spread a little thin. We do send them in the summer, sometimes if they want, because they're technically off, but I am all for PDA and PDA. That's great. I'm not for PDA. Let's be clear. I'm all for PD, SBA, anywhere they can get it.
That just made it worse.
Public record, please, I apologize.
Okay. Dina, go after that.
I don't know, what do you say, right? The one thing that I didn't see up there, and it's because that's where I live, is CTE, or vocational ed. What are your thoughts going forward in our operations for students to take those classes that are considered CTE?
I'm a big vocational ed fan. We're looking at biotech for next year. I'm sure you've heard about that from Dr. J. We actually have a potential candidate. I would, the culinary adventure, I think we can call it. We're putting that aside for right now and looking at using that technology we have over in the end building and biotech moving forward.
And EVIT?
Yeah, I love EVIT. Just went there, as you know. Trying to get my son to go there, to be honest. And we took a group there in the fall. We just took another group there. They represented our expo, and we really promoted a lot.
So you talked about a lot of these kids are coming off of COVID years. So during COVID, even when we were like on hybrid, we had a great absentee rate. Where are we now with our absentee rate? Like, are we getting most kids in their seats?
Yeah, it's, we are. We do still have to, Ms. Wynn does a great job of I guess you could call it following up and consequencing. She runs a query every Friday, calls parents. We do see kids that are tired or burned out or working, and we we continually emphasize the importance of being in class. Philosophically, I'll be honest, it's unless it's super egregious, it's really tough for me to pull credit from a student who, is getting a good grade and works 30 hours a week, and is maybe not making it to school as often as we'd like, but we certainly emphasize seat time as much as we can and look at every student individually, and she stays on top of it by having the student in front of her while she's calling the parent and really getting the big picture of why they're not coming to school if they're not. So we feel like it's getting better, but I think COVID did still have an impact on the students maybe wanting to stay home.
And then you talked about, the team input and getting, teacher input and whatnot. What about your students? Do you have a principal advisory board? Are you getting student input? Because those are your customers.
Correct. We do, Dr. J and I meet with the student advisory board once a month, kind of learning from him in terms of we're always asking students in every interaction, what they think about this, what they think about that. But what we've taken from him is the more formal gathering of, okay, here's what we'd like to do, what do you think about this? And getting their feedback. What comes to mind is bringing back a lot of the extracurricular activities that were here 3, 4, or 5 years ago that disappeared, during homecoming week, during homecoming week. Fun things that there's teenage fun, there's adult fun. I talk about fun, bonfires and buff puffs going on as we speak. It's their school, so where do they want to see it go? And how can we make it a place, back to the presentation, where they can feel involved?
We met with about 30 or 35 kids yesterday about the schedule, taking feedback, and then there's a survey going out later to them about, we did informal, can you live with it, do you like it? And now we're gonna get more specific and then leave it open-ended. What are things we didn't think about? What are things you'd like in there? But yeah, we're very much, student voice is a big part of what we do. And we do meet monthly. We have 12 members of the student advisory board. My goal is to get them to a point where they can come present to you, but they're still real quiet, even 6 months in. So it may be later in the year or next year when they're ready to do that. But the goal is to grow that program.
Good. Yeah,
Lunch duties, if you want feedback, I found that the cafeteria just informally, and it took them a while to warm up because they were kind of passing, why is my principal trying to talk to me? But as they warmed up to all of us, even just that informal, how are things going, how did you think that went? We file away, and you can really reach 30 kids a day that way, so some really valuable feedback there.
Good. Because obviously it's a team effort, and adults tend to look at other adults for input, but those kids have a lot of great ideas and they should be heard, because you're right, that is their school, they're the ones that live it every day. So I want to make sure we're not missing that opportunity to hear from them.
I have one more question. Brought up with the absentee question. Do we have any kind of work credit program where if a student has a job, they're able to leave early? That was something I did in high school. I had to take certain classes in the morning, and then I was able to leave early because I had a job.
Well, it depends on where they are credit-wise. We have a lot that leave early and go to a job, but it's one of the things we've talked about, bringing in credit for work.
Holding down a job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or even if you're not getting paid and it's an internship or whatever. And it goes with, again, school is not for everyone, and often the academic piece, some view as a requirement, but they are hands-on and have interests in other areas.
so love to see them be able to get credit there.
Okay, we'll let you go.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Can you provide your slideshow to Krista so she can send it to the board, please?
Yep, she already has.
Perfect. Okay. Next up, district celebrations. We'll start with McDowell Mountain. Kevin?
Oh, yeah.
You three are trouble, all three of you.
Thank you. Yes. Good evening. So I'm up here obviously for the Falcons of the Month. So we're going to recognize our staff member first. And I'm recognizing Miss Melissa Hyde. Miss Melissa, as she's known at MMES, is one of our special education aides. She's an invaluable resource for Miss Mack in K-3. Melissa is a jack of all trades, helping with small groups in K-3, pushing into general education classrooms to help certain students, and serves as a recess monitor, just to name a few. Miss Melissa exemplifies what it means to be a team player by always helping when we are shorthanded. She always has a smile on her face and makes everyone around her feel welcome. I've always said if the principal vanished, the school would operate just fine. If staff like Melissa disappeared, things would come to a grinding halt. That is how valuable Miss Melissa and staff like her are to our schools. Thank you for all that you do, Miss Melissa. I'm honored to call you a teammate, and I'm very, very grateful to have you at MMES. Miss Melissa Hyde.
Just on a side note, he has offered me his job a couple times.
Thank you. Wait, George needs a picture.
I did not formally offer her my job. That was a bad day. So I have two students who I nominated, and unfortunately they couldn't be here tonight. They are twins in kindergarten, Sherry and Leo Lane. I am an identical twin, some of you know that, and I know Mrs. Hairdryer, Dr. Hairdryer is a twin as well. Wheel dryer, excuse me. Sorry, I always mess that up. My apologies. So, it's near and dear to our hearts because we both have siblings and obviously twins. But tonight I'd like to recognize Sherry and Leo Lane, and I'll read exactly what their teacher said. So I'll start with Leo. Leo is simply an amazing Falcon. He is always ready to listen and participate with a smile. He shows up every day with a positive attitude and a big heart for all of his classmates. He is such a joy to teach. We love having Leo and his wonderful twin Sherry on our kinder team. That's from Miss Doran. And now for Sherry Lane, this is from Miss Levin. Sherry is one of the sweetest, kindest, and hardworking students I have ever met. Without a doubt, Sherry is always my right-hand girl when it comes to helping her fellow peers or me. She puts a smile on my face first thing in the morning when I hear, "Hi, Miss Levin," from the playground. She always participates and gives 100% with anything she does in class. I feel so blessed to have Sherry in my class as a first-year teacher. Keep being keep being the amazing and kind student that you are. I love you, Miss Levin. So again, unfortunately, we're not able to be here tonight, so I'll present these to them on Friday in our assembly. So again, special thanks to Miss Melissa and Sherry and Leo Lane. Dr. Wheel Dryer, you were up next.
It's a good thing you three work with children.
They're lucky I like them. Okay. I'm going to start with our staff, which is Christine Rios. Hi, everyone. I would love her to chat and talk about all the wonderful things that she does, but she's kind of lost her voice.
Just happened, right?
She's like, please don't make me speak. there's one thing about, you have staff, it's a new school for me. And you look and you observe and you go in and out of classrooms, you're just like, I like this girl, she's tough, she's organized, she's got really good leadership. And so it wasn't that hard to decide who to choose for this month, because every day, since the day I've started, I'm like, man, this woman's amazing. And if you go in and out of her classrooms, they are so quiet. Kids are sitting, they're learning, they're listening, they're engaged. And every time I'm going in, I'm like, ooh, what are we learning today? And let me tell you, she has high expectations for all students, for herself. And I may have written this all out, but man, can I tell you, she does an excellent job. Students love her, they love being in her class. You can see that they love all the things that they're learning. She gets these kids up and moving. I mean, she may be our English teacher, but she's getting those kids to write and read and do so many wonderful things. She's also our 5th grade team lead. And so anytime there's some kind of thing that comes up that we just need solutions, she's first to give us that solution. And I'm like, thank you. And there's one less thing I have to solve today, and if I need it to get solved, go to her. She'll give you that solution. And so all I have to say is that she is so resourceful. She puts together all these wonderful, we had a recent in-house field trip, very creative in all the things she does for the team. The team looks up to her. She has high praise of her colleagues. All I have to say is that we love all the things Ms. Rios does, and so we want to compliment her and give her this Falcon of the Month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've heard wonderful things about you, even on the board.
I appreciate it. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I can see Riley back there smiling all big and proud. I know Ms. Rios would love to expose me on his behalf, but I am going to. So Riley Pena, our 5th grader, is a breath of fresh air. He always has a smile on his face. Can you see it? Can you see him over there? And he has a great attitude that is contagious. Being around Riley is sure to put you in a good mood. He is a great friend. He's supportive. He has something that someone else needs. He's sure to share it. As a student, Riley works very hard at his school, does very well with his academics, and during class he listens well and is respectful to his teachers. He's highly motivated at everything he does. We are lucky to have a student and a friend like Riley. Come on up, Riley.
Thank you.
Oh, he's gonna send you up? He's not gonna come back and talk to us?
I'm exhausted.
I had more questions I could ask.
Before I get started, Miss Reed, just let your daughter know that last year we had a basketball player who played on the varsity team, and then she went and changed, and then she cheered for the boys' varsity team. So let her know it is not out of the realm of possibility.
She can do both.
She can do both.
Yes.
Great.
All right, so I'm going to change it up and do the student first, because for all the reasons why we're recognizing the student, they need to get somewhere to celebrate their classmates. So, Fabian Pena. Fabian is the type of kid, which is ironic, who brings a smile to your face. So it must run in the family, it's genetics. Brings a smile to your face just by his presence. This year specifically, he has gotten really involved in extracurricular activities, which have kept him on track with his attendance and academics. He joined the football team this past fall as a senior, and when we wrote it, he was planning on joining the track team, and maybe we can convince him to go and join again for this spring. This winter, he has become the unofficial leader of the student section, cheering on our basketball teams and keeping our student section under control-ish into this win, even traveling to away games. He has stepped up as a leader on campus and has become the face of school spirit, helping to rebuild our school climate after COVID took away many of the extras that help make high school experience memorable for so many. He is the definition of #WeBleedBlue, and we couldn't be more proud of the young man we have watched him become. Fabian, come on up here.
Fabian, if you're late, blame Mr. Hartman in that long presentation.
It was a total coincidence that both brothers were nominated the same night. So kudos
That's
to
because you're
them.
amazing. Both of you are amazing.
They should have a family picture.
Yeah, how about
Right.
a family picture? Wait, Riley and Fabian, come up and get your picture taken together.
It's a special moment.
Yeah, we had no idea. No.
Well, you've raised amazing boys, apparently.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I told them.
Okay, hi, right behind
Awesome,
Fabian.
that's so cute.
All right, so now on to our amazing staff member of the month. So, this is a math equation. Life is a math equation. In order to gain the most, you have to know how to convert negatives into positives. Allison does just that. She comes in every day figuring out how to make the biggest impact on her students and the school. She takes the challenges that students face and finds ways for them to grasp the concepts and clarify their misconceptions. Allison has created an environment where you feel as though you are at home. At times, I have even sought out her room to sit and get caught up on work because it's just a great atmosphere. We are lucky to have her on our team. Allison is one of our high-flying Falcons. Congratulations, Allison. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is the district office transportation. They just didn't call anybody. They tag teamed each other, but, you know, they left you guys out to the cold.
Governing Board, Dr. J, thanks for having me back again today. I appreciate it. Anytime you don't want me to come back, I would appreciate that as well. It's been a long couple weeks. First of all, I do want to say one thing about the Pena boys. I coached two of them in football, including Fabian, and he deserves the award. And I just told him, I've told him this before, he's a great brother. He's just a great role model for his other brothers. Anyway, since we began this award, my practice has been to nominate someone from transportation based on feedback that I get from other staff members and my personal observations. Today I'm going to go off script because the nomination came from a member of our Falcon family. I'm going to quote now. I think about emailing you every day to nominate, and I just never get around to it. I would love to nominate bus driver Mr. Gary, who drives the squirrel bus. I've written him a thank you card to let him know how much I appreciate the little things he does that may go unnoticed to others. For starters, when it's raining, he will drop off some of the kids right in front of our house. I usually have 3 kids on the bus, and then the neighbor across the street has one. When it rains, our streets flood. It helps parents so much as we can go out and help with getting their backpacks or sports bags or just anything that could fall into the running water. He stops at the next corner to save another student some distance, but all while staying on the bus route. I want to emphasize that. He's always on route. There's one thing Gary is, he's always on route. Vince Kozlich, problems sometimes. Something else I've noticed is Mr. Gary will make sure our first grade neighbor has a family member to get him. He lives across the street from us and usually has a parent or grandparent get him at the bus stop. It happens rarely, but sometimes they're not at the bus stop, and Mr. Gary will pass the house and honk the horn to get their attention, to make sure the student is able to get into the house. He always makes sure he's safe. Another family who lives down the street has a student in 4th and 1st. One of the parents is a teacher in our district. Last year, Mr. Gary would pick them up at the beginning of his route, right here at the high school. And then again, always make sure they were safe and had a ride to school. These last 2 years have been great, as we have had minimal to no problems on the bus, when in previous years it felt like a weekly occurrence. I have confidence in knowing my children and the neighboring children are on that bus. My 5th grader says that she likes Mr. Gary because, quote, he's nice, he makes us smile, and he talks to us. He's always happy. He always says hello and goodbye. He goes beyond what is needed to do. It reflects on other students and makes me incredibly thankful as a parent. I hope he stays our bus driver for years to come, Allie Schroyer. I'll add one final note. Gary has also assisted the high school, middle school in McDowell Mountain with custodial work and as an aide in the cafeteria. And for the past month, he's also been one of my team members who's helping with building consolidation. So he steps up all around the district. So it's my honor to award Gary Grover, Mr. Gary, the Falcon of the Month Award.
Okay, that completes our district celebrations. Congratulations to everyone. Next up, Stugo. Do we have any Stugo reps? They confirmed with me they'd be here. Okay.
They got the activity there.
Activity time.
Oh, they might be at Buff Puff. That's fine. We'll hear from them after who's coming, or I guess who coming's over, but we'll hear from them next time. Student auxiliary or activity and auxiliary accounts. Are there any questions regarding those accounts? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the unaudited financial report, which I have a couple questions of my own. Dr. J or Alicia, one of you, would you like to explain the ESSER 3 grant that the board received the updated unaudited report for?
Yeah, I'm going to have Alicia come and speak on it.
So we updated the beginning balance on our report because while doing research and trying to reconcile accounts, we realized that the previous balance was overstated from previous administration, so we wanted to make sure it was accurate moving forward. Updated the beginning balance, and then the remaining balance that we have that hasn't been either spent or encumbered is approximately $126,000 that we'll figure out how to use so that we use it before the required date.
Okay, so the original report that the board was provided was $1,295,000. So explain to the board, like, I get it, it was past administration, past director of finance, but explain to the board where that other $600,000 went. Where did you have to reallocate it to?
So they reallocated a lot of it to salaries and to the purchase of PPE when COVID was here, when COVID was big.
Those were things that were already paid out of like M&O, but should have been paid out of ESSER. So the ESSER money had to be reallocated to those things.
Yeah, and I can explain it further. So and all the research that I did when I came on board, all ESSER money has been spent prior to our arrival. We have not, to my knowledge, I have not spent anything out of our ESSER account. Most of the ESSER funding of ESSER 3, and Krista has a lot of background on that, was put into salaries basically with the idea of things that you could spend it on, you put it in there for salaries, and then you save on your M&O costs and kind of build that back up. So there's going to be, no matter what, doing it that way, what they call an ESSER cliff, right? There's going to be a fiscal cliff at some point where ESSER money is no longer available and it falls back onto M&O. So what Tyler has been working on is reconciling those positions that were labeled and written into the grant for ESSER 3. He's going back and reconciling those and reimbursing, the M&O account for those is basically what he's doing. So when all is said and done, and you look at all the money that is left, there is about $120,000 of ESSER 3 money that's left. His recommendation at this time is to put that into air conditioning at the middle school campus, which will be the new McDowell Mountain, and then with the hope that we will also be able to file for school facility board coverage of that as well, and maybe reimbursed back to us. But his thought is that with the amount of money we spent early in the year on air conditioning repair, that it would be best to knock out the most failing units over there and use that money to do that. So neither of us were here when any of those decisions were made on ESSER 3. All I've been told is that they're reconciling the accounts and getting that money back where it needs to go, and that's why there was a discrepancy in there.
And there are positions that were paid for out of the ESSER 3 money that we knew would only be a year or two positions. Can you give us an example of what those positions are?
Yeah, I can give you one. Is the instructional coach position, and also that employee resigned earlier in the year. So that was one that was designated from ESSER. Counselors was another one. So if you add up those salaries and how previous superintendents decided to spend that money, what we're doing is going back and fixing some of those, reconciling those accounts to make it where we're getting reimbursed from the grant the proper way. So everything, I've had Tyler look at this several times, and he's very, very confident that it is, once all the encumbrances are taken out, it is about $120,000 that is left.
Okay. And I have one more question, and then I'll open it up for other questions from board members. The CTE right above, so when we originally got the report in our board packet, there was no dollar amount in the CTE first column, the budget for adopted. But now on the updated report that we received, there's $16,000, and which after year-to-date expenses, the balance, and then the encumbrances left a negative balance of $6,775 instead of a negative balance of $22,000. Where'd that money come from?
That was actually something that was budgeted into our accounts when we rolled over to the new year that wasn't accounted for in our budget. So when we went and evaluated the grant to make sure we were getting everything, we found that we had that additional $16,000 available.
From the grant?
From the grant.
Also, CT is typically current year funding, right? So what will happen is Kevin Clancy, who oversees that, he is working and ensuring that paperwork is done and things are taking place in the right direction. With the culinary class and the teacher resigning and not being able to offer that, we may not get some funding for that as a result of that. The biotech course we're looking at doing would be also through the JTED funding, which would allow for us to save on current year funding. So with the CT money and the fact that we've had a program that was in place, now it's not in place, I believe that had something to do with that as well.
Are there questions from other board members? Okay, Libby has a question. Did you?
Sorry, so I'm going to go back to the ESSER funds. Mm-hmm. So it was about $650,000. Did that affect, I would have expected to see our M&O rise by the $650,000 if we're putting that money back in the M&O. So is that what accounted for the audited or updated financials last year and the big swing in those funds?
It was actually an overspend from last year, so it had to go in and fix the fiscal year '22 payment that was originally allocated. So we didn't actually have that money coming into the fiscal year '23 that we thought we did.
It's not a cash controlled count, right?
Correct.
Right.
Dana?
Question on the biotech, is that going to be a satellite program?
Yes, that's what we're hoping for. I have a group of, Michael Gant in town, Dr. Sweeney, Chad Wilson, Dr. Wilson from EVIT, and Linda Coyle, all scheduled for an upcoming meeting to see how we can get that off the ground. And is it doable by next year? Is it got to be a year of planning and the following year? So more to come, but yeah, the idea is to add a program that we can get current year funding for and help, with our M&O budget as well. I can share that our hope is that Tyler will be here tonight to answer those questions for you. What he is going to do is send you an email with a breakdown of everything so that you have that. And he will also do the same on the procurement that we took off the agenda today so that you have that as well. So he will get that to you, I would hope, by tomorrow. But my hope originally was that he'd be here tonight to be able to answer those questions. Like I said, Alicia's been on the job for about a month. She's learning a lot. We've relied very heavily on true professionals for a lot of this. But I've seen Tyler is very, very, very strict with our money and very much says no to a lot of things we propose. And I know he will be able to give you a good summary of how, line by line, where that money has been used and where it is at. Okay? But I just want to be clear, we have not spent any ESSER 3 money since we have all started.
And kind of going back to the CTE, Perkins money, are we looking at being able to use that for potentially?
Yes, for the equipment, yes. Yeah, that's what that group's gonna start looking at, and then we'll bring Kevin into that as well once we feel like this is something we wanna do. And then he will help secure any of that funding for equipment and teacher salary as well.
Thank you.
I just have one question, and it might be ignorance based. I'm the first to admit that I'm not a specialist with this, but why is there such a high negative balance for food service?
Food service actually comes in as a monthly revenue from the state, so we just have to request those funds from the state in order to get
It's a reimbursement, just
Okay,
like transportation.
so we just haven't been reimbursed for that
Right,
amount
so we
yet.
provide reports, just like transportation, and then, we still have stuff we pay out of that, but then those reports, they provide the funding back to us. Okay. Lillian, did you have any questions?
No, actually, my question was again, the same thing about the food, so that takes care of it.
Yeah, there's different accounts that you'll find that go into a negative, and usually it's a reimbursement, whether it be a grant reimbursement or federal reimbursement. So sometimes those happen. So. Kind of same with the community school. That's another one that goes in the negative a lot. So. Okay, hearing no more questions regarding the unaudited financial report. I'll go back to my agenda. Next is current enrollment and withdrawal. Are there any questions or comments? I'll make a comment that we're up 20 from the January 11th report, so any positive is a good thing. Okay, next site council minutes. Are there any questions or comments regarding the site council from the schools?
The only comment I'll make is I did see that our middle school is in need of mentors, and so I know that I'm going to start working on my church's congregation, and I would just, anyone that's listening, encourage them to look into being involved with that.
Yes, the middle school reported that they only have 12, and they actually have 13 students participating, so they need more mentors. And as we learned at the retreat from George, that the last time he talked to Golden Eagle, that before COVID they had 90 some, and right now they're at 23, 28, something, 28. So we have a huge deficit of mentors, so anybody that wants to apply to Golden Eagle, it's greatly appreciated. Public comments, do we have any public comments, Chris? Thank you. Call to the public, this is the time for the public to comment. Time limits may be allocated on public comment at the discretion of the board president for the board to efficiently complete its business. The board reserves the right to prohibit any comments made in a discourteous or threatening manner. Complaints about specific individuals, students, or personnel are discouraged. Personnel issues should be directed to the appropriate staff member or administrator per district policy. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Mrs. Monar?
Good evening. How are you? Fine. How are you all doing? So my name is Sharon Monar, and I was the preschool special ed teacher for more than 16 years. I can't really keep track of how many, and then I retired and then came back this year, which I'm really excited about.
We are too.
Thank you. A couple of weeks ago, a friend sent me a picture of the preschool flyer, and I've heard in the community that there's some concerns about social emotional learning, and so I just wanted to explain what exactly it is at the preschool level. So, like I said, I'm a preschool special ed teacher, so I look at the 5 developmental areas: cognitive, adaptive behavior, social, emotional, communication, and also physical development. And then this is a copy of the Arizona Early Learning Standards, which we follow. And of course, there is a section on social emotional learning. So I just wanted to read to you and to our community about what exactly we do when it comes to social emotional learning in preschool. So social emotional learning involves self-awareness so that you can go and express your wants, also what you don't like, and talk about like, oh, we both like this, and it's okay for me to like this, but for you not to like it. Also recognizing and expressing feelings, being able to tell like that you're mad and why you're mad, and to work out differences among your friends. Self-regulation is all about keeping your body calm and kind of dealing with those emotions that are so strong. And a lot of kids need help with this. You know, they just come in, they get upset when things don't go their way, especially because of COVID. They haven't really had that interaction. So we're constantly working with them, trying to get them to calm down and express their needs, and to also transition from one activity to another, which when you don't want to when you're 3, it can be a little bit difficult at times. Also to work on those attachments that we have. We try to develop really meaningful attachments between the teachers and the students, and also students together. That's very important. Also to be able to leave mom and dad without being upset. That's another issue that we work with. Social interactions are a key component to education. And I remember when I first started out in special education and how I really felt like, especially children with autism, they may know so much, but if you don't have that social component and being willing to have a connection with others, it makes life really difficult. And so to me, that's one of the key areas of development, is that social interaction component. And it also is like, you know, understanding that you can't have everything all right when you want it, that you have to be able to wait and learn to say, can I have it when you're done? And work on those skills and those phrases that we use so often. Another is respect. Not only respecting, you know, your toys, but the toys of others, in that you cannot knock down a block tower that someone else builds. You can only knock down the one that you build. And those are really the key issues that we work with in preschool, and how we teach children about how to use their social emotional learning. Like I said, there are 5 developmental areas, and there, you can see I've got several tabs in here. So in the early learning standards, we have a lot of areas too. But I just wanted to hopefully educate the community about what social emotional learning is. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that explanation. It's always good to get that information out.
And Jill, you know, the rules that we live in, I would love to ask a lot of questions about special ed at the preschool level. So at some point down the road, I'd like to have that added to an agenda.
Absolutely. Got it. Okay. We have no further public comments. So next up is the consent agenda, which includes the personal action report, payroll vouchers, accounts payable vouchers, donations, and the sole source provider, Nextiva. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda?
I do have one question regarding the sole source provider, Nextiva. It stated that they were originally not a traditional sole source provider, so I was wondering what transpired, or if we know what transpired to remove them from that list.
Yeah, I'm going to again have Alicia come speak to that.
Sorry.
At the time that we looked for a contract for a phone system, Nextiva was the only one that was out there that would service Fountain Hills. When that was established, they signed a 3-year contract, and until that 3-year contract, we're actually not allowed to go out and look for another phone service company without breaking that contract and having to pay a fee. So when this year we were reviewing our sole source and realized that they are no longer a sole source, we took them off, only to realize that we had to put them back on until January of 2024 is when that sole source, when their contract ends, so we'll be able to go out for bid again and find a phone service company that will work for this district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was done under past administration.
You might need to stay here. I had some questions about some of the accounts payable vouchers, and I did speak a little bit with Kane, but for the Educational Networks Incorporated, we pay them to do our website. I know we're not necessarily required to do the 3 bids because it's not over that dollar amount, but do we put out for bids for things like that, or do we just kind of choose someone to go with?
We do like to go for 3 bids, regardless of whether we're going to meet that requirement or not, just to see if it's most advantageous to the district.
Okay, because to me that was, I mean, I understand that they probably have a lot more knowledge when it comes to, you know, high school and educational websites, but that to me was a high dollar amount for a website.
Let me share, in the past 2 years, we moved away from school webmasters to this new company. And again, those decisions were made prior to our arrival. I do believe it's always in our best interest to look for the best product and the best quality. We do not have anyone right now that can do full-time web service. And there's a lot of rules that go with organizations as far as compliance and font size and things that are just beyond us. So we will, each year as we look to renew, we will always look at what's in the best interest of our district and what are things that we're happy with and what are things we're not happy with.
Okay.
Can I add, Pete, because I was part of bringing educational networks to the district, we actually did get 3 quotes. It was not the formal process with bid sheet, it was past administration, but we did get 3 quotes and they were the cheapest.
Okay.
By far, for some of the, if you look on other school districts and stuff, you can see at the bottom, like, I think Scottsdale uses Blackboard, they're quite expensive. So it was definitely a competitive price.
Okay, good to know. And then I had questions about the race place event systems. They handle athletic events. Do you know what that was for?
Race Place is actually the company that we go through to do tracking for the Fountain Hills cross-country invitational. So they actually supplied all of our race bibs and tags, all the timing equipment, and then inflatables for the finish line.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Sure.
So it looks like maybe having that cross-country invitational in town cost the school somewhere upwards of $9,000. Do the other participants pay any fees
They do.
for that? And where would we see that coming in?
It would be in their cross-country student count, it would be in there. It's a big, my understanding is.
It's a great event, don't get me
Yeah, it
wrong,
is,
but.
number one. Number two, every team pays an entry fee. So for them, my understanding is that is their large fundraiser for the year.
And then I think, can you kind of address this with the air conditioning, because one of my big concerns was the multiple expenses from Climatech, Bel Air Mechanical, I think Dakin was another one, that seemed repetitive. And so I think that with what we're gonna do to update the air conditioning might take care of that, because it's adding up
It
quite
won't
a
take
bit.
care of it, it'll put a dent in it. It is the equipment is old and needs to be replaced. And so we saw that early in the year in the hot months of how much air conditioning costs. We have a room right now at the elementary school that the teacher has been working with our maintenance to get somebody out to get that air conditioning down, even though it's winter month, it's hot in that room and it does need to cool down. So this will be something, unfortunately, until we come up with a large-scale solution to antiquated equipment that we're going to be faced with.
And a follow-up on Libby's. So like I'm looking at the student account for cross-country, and they've got a really nice balance in there. So the school pays the raceway. Does cross-country reimburse the school for the expense that we have?
Yeah, typically, when you put on a tournament, there may be costs associated with that, and then that's where it gets reconciled here.
Okay, thanks. Because cross-country,
Yeah.
cross-country made quite a bit. You can tell just from their deposits. That's nice.
And then, yeah, one last thing, I also brought this up with Dr. King, but just publicly, the Panorama education, I'm uncomfortable with that figure, but I know that there's some
I'll
things.
speak to that.
Thank you.
So Panorama, again, was a program that was purchased prior to our arrival. It is a surveying, it's a company that does surveying for organizations. It has been used in the past for different surveys. Both Dr. Sweeney, when he became interim superintendent, and myself have both written letters to Panorama to cancel with them, and both have been, we failed on both of those. We've also had our attorney look over that, and we are locked into that for the rest of this year. Once this year is up, we will not be renewing that because we can, in my opinion, use a variety of other surveying resources that most are free. And again, we can take that on ourselves, so that will not be renewed in the future, but we did try to cancel it twice.
And I'll speak to Panorama because that actually was a board decision. It was a company that was researched. We got multiple bids on surveying data. Under past administration, we were trying to get a survey of the culture of the school. We were going through COVID. There were a lot of different things going on. And we, at that time, decided that we needed an outside source that specialized in this based on the climate that was here. So it was a board decision based on that, just so you know.
I guess I have one more. There was a pay FHUSD transportation. Do we know what that was for on the 27th, January 27th?
I was unable to get to John, and now he's left, but I do believe it is most likely, again, we'll verify. I'm guessing it has to do with a trip that we provided services to for a field trip or a team event or something along those lines, but I will get you that answer.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask one more question?
Yes, you may, go ahead.
So I have one more question, and Alicia, I don't think it's for you to answer, but thank you, I appreciate it. So we had Heinfeld Meach, and they did our audit, is that correct, Dr. J?
Heinfeld Meach is the new auditor that we selected earlier this year because the previous auditor had dropped us.
And does the board receive a report from
Yes.
them when
You will
their
get
audit
one-
is
you will
completed?
get one at the end of the year.
Okay.
They will come and present their findings to you. And again, this year's audit will be on last year's fiscal year. And then this year, Alicia has been working with them. I've done my interview with them for what we've done to increase internal controls. So we are, in my opinion, headed very much in the right direction for the future. We'll see where the audit comes this year, but you will get a presentation from them. And also that fee is reimbursed by my understanding is reimbursed by the state because everyone has to do this. And so that's how, when we went through that process early in the year, Tyler did share with us that the cost was no cost to the district.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, I just wanted to thank all the people that have made donations too. I noticed, actually, in all my board packets, I will say that this probably had the most donations that I've ever seen. And so I'm just thankful for the community that they've donated anything from money for the football field to money and different items for the staff picnic, which I think is fantastic. So thank you to the community for supporting our staff and kiddos. So again, the consent agenda has the personnel action report, payroll vouchers, accounts payable vouchers, donations, and the sole source provider, Nextiva. Hearing no more questions, do I have a motion?
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You got all the votes, Kristen?
We were
All ayes, right?
Right?
Yep, okay. Okay, motion carries. Next up is action items, the student trip grades 8 through 12 to Scotland, England, and France in March of 2024. Mr. Sunshine and Mr. Peterson were here at our last business meeting and presented all the great things they plan on seeing while they go over there. Dr. J, do you have any further information that you need to provide?
I do not at this time, but I can do my best to answer any questions you may have.
Isn't there a
have
change that France is not included? I believe that was extra, and they're not doing that. If you look,
That's possible, that they didn't think they're going to Scotland.
Yeah, they crossed out the
Yeah,
Right.
two-day
they-
tour extension for Paris.
Yeah,
Right,
so they
yeah.
won't be doing France.
Right.
So yes, it's just
Mhm.
Scotland and England.
in England.
Yep.
I had one question. Were you provided with any follow-up on the COVID? It says COVID vaccines are not required to go on the trip, and then not even a few sentences later, it says all will need to be vaccinated to enter buildings on the tour.
My understanding would be that, as far as to go on the trip, no, but what laws and regulations each country has would be out of our control, so
But
then,
as far as like planning their itinerary for the students, are there going to be things that students that are not vaccinated are able to participate in? They're not just going to be sitting outside of
they
the
spoke
building?
to that, I believe, at the last meeting, that they will evaluate that as they go, and they'll see, they're prepared though, in the event that there is someone or several students or staff that cannot enter the building, that they will have alternative activities. They did speak to that, yes.
Okay.
And everything can change between now and
Correct.
2024, so. Okay, are there any other questions regarding the trip? Okay, hearing none, I motion that we approve the student trip grades 8 through 12 to Scotland and England in March of 2024.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the student trip, grades 8 through 12 to Germany, May 2024. Mr. Peterson and Mr. Sunshine also spoke to that. Are there any questions regarding that trip? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion?
I move we approve the trip to Germany.
I'll second. I have a motion and a second to approve the trip to Germany, grades 8 through 12 for May of 2024. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the Avid field trip to Flagstaff to visit NAU. Dr. J, do you have any further information
I
on
do
that?
not, but I do support it as it is important for our students to see the amazing university that I'm a two-time graduate of NAU in Flagstaff.
I'm a Thunderbird. No, I'm not. I'm a lumberjack too.
Oh, you are. Look at that. I started out as a lumberjack, but I didn't make it. It's too cold up there. Bet my flip-flops didn't work out. All right, are there any questions regarding the Avid field trip? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I motion to approve the Avid field trip to Flagstaff.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the purchase over $100,000 for RNA facilities management. Dr. J, I'm going to let you discuss that.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, yes, thank you. So we have been, one of the issues that's come up consistently this first semester is the cleanliness, custodial services of our buildings. And we are struggling to hire at what we can pay employees at that rate. We've also had some employees that have not returned, early over the summer. We've been able to not fill those. So we currently sit with several positions right now that are not filled. When those positions are not filled, and then on top of that, you have employees who are out or go on a leave, we then have really no one to fill in for that. So we are, as you saw with Mr. Gary, he's filling in. JC has obviously always done that over the years and filled in. So we have a lot of employees who are filling in for that, and it's just not sustainable in my opinion. After looking at this for 6 months, I just don't believe it is sustainable moving forward. Right now, we are currently budgeted for $560,946 for the year for all custodial for all buildings in the district, which is about 11 employees right now. We do not have 11 employees at this time, so all year we have been saving some money because those have been unfilled. I believe 4 have been unfilled all year, and others have been off and on. The proposal from RNA Facilities Management was the lowest bid of the 3 that we did. Came in at $317,590, but I want to include in that is for all buildings, including the full McDowell Mountain, which would only be for this second semester, would be charged on a prorated price the rest of this year for McDowell Mountain. Moving forward, if approved, that McDowell Mountain site would be cut down by about 2/3 of the cost, which is about $50,000 roughly in savings is our estimate. So you're looking at that dropping down considerably there. When you factor in that we do have some employees, and we're not saying if this is approved, that they will no longer be employed, because we love our employees and want to help them find success and hopefully retire with us. The idea behind this model is to have RNA services come in from 2 to 10 each night and do a full cleaning of all the buildings. Then the staff that we currently have, we would appoint 3 of them to be day porters at each site in order to be available for when there is a mess in the cafeteria or something happens in a classroom where they need to come in and deal with it. So there would be somebody for the principal throughout the day to handle maintenance issues, handle cleanup, and start maybe even doing some of that process throughout the day. And then the service would come in and do the vacuuming, the cleaning of the bathrooms, and keep that maintenance up to date, which we have not had a real good track record of doing this year because of shortages. So when you look at the cost and you look at keeping those 3 people in those positions, it will be, in my estimation, a very large savings, close to $100,000. Now, the 3 other employees that we have that would not be in day porter positions, we would then reallocate them into positions possibly in the warehouse, possibly in the transportation department. They could be, a roamer to different sites when there's absenteeism and we need a sub or someone goes on a leave. So we believe overall this is going to make our teachers happy. If you go back to one of the early surveys that we had, the number one thing on there was building cleanliness and building issues that they're struggling with. And I just believe really strongly in listening to our staff, and this is something that I believe we do need to do. I would say of all the things we've had to deal with this year, this has been our number one issue. And I think, you know, overall, this is an easy fix, right? We just need to bring in a company that can do this. We've had great success with our outsourcing of technology. This is the first year that I can remember in many, many years where there has not been an overwhelming concern about tech. In fact, I hear nothing. The survey we did do, the Fruth Group actually got very good scores from our staff of feeling that we're heading the right direction. And we have a similar model. They take care of big picture, and we have a couple of techs that do the smaller things throughout the day for our teachers. So with that, we believe that this is a better move for our district. We believe that we're spending the money we're spending on consolidation, and we're making our schools look amazing, especially the new McDowell Mountain. The last thing I want when we're doing tours is that it's not being kept up to the level that it should be. So, so with that, I'll take any questions that you have.
The 317,000 from RNA, so it says for 240 work days per year. Is there a prorated amount, like if the board approves this, are they gonna start this year, and is that, are we looking at a calendar year, are we looking at a school year, like what are we
It would
looking
be a
at?
school year, and it would be prorated from, you know, if approved and we tell them we're moving forward with you in the next week or whatever it is, it would be prorated to the rest of the year. Now, before we move forward with a final agreement, we will do our due diligence of making sure that Dave has no issues with the contract, as we always do. This is just giving us the authorization to move forward with a third party, and this is the one that we believe came in with the best bid price. And what's nice about this is it allows us to be the customer, which I really like in these situations, because if they're not doing a great job, we go find another company. It also, for us, if we had a good track record of being able to hire these positions, we wouldn't be talking about this today. This has been an ongoing issue for many years.
What happened to the cleaning company that the board gave John approval to hire back last year?
I can't speak to that. I just know that he has tried several times to keep this in-house, and we've come to an agreement after many months that it's probably best that we bring in somebody on the outside. So what we can do is see how this goes as we move forward the rest of the year. And as with anything, if we're not getting the service that we want, we will move on and try something else and keep working until we get what we need.
So if we enter into an agreement with them, is it a long-term agreement or
It's a
how,
year. It would be
1
a
year?
And do they work during the summer?
The 240 days is very similar to, say, like my contract, so I would, yes. But, you know, in that time, they'd be probably doing different things. Yeah.
I wanted to thank you for looking at ways to save money in this area, as well as looking at creative ways to keep the employees that we have, because like we saw, they're worth keeping. They're valuable.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. We love our employees, but, you know, they need help too. And this is gonna help them have a better experience, because they're not coming in now in the morning and having, you know, they're gonna come in and be hopefully feeling like, wow, a lot got done last night. I can do more for my principal, I can do more for my staff, do those little things that we see. And I'm, in my building, you know, Melissa does that all the time. She's fantastic, so, yeah.
Well, we won't have teachers scrubbing their own carpets instead of setting up their rooms right before school starts. So, are there other questions?
So I just wanted to make sure, I think it's great that we're going to an outside company. First, want to make sure we didn't enter into a contract before, so just to follow up on that. But secondly, it says in the contract that we're responsible for providing equipment. So I just want to ensure that our campuses all have working vacuums and
we do
proper equipment.
I purchased years ago for Melissa some new carpet cleaners, and it was like she won the lottery. She was so excited about it. And so, and to this day, she still thanks me. But yeah, the equipment, we have all the equipment that's needed. And you know, if there are minor things that come up that we need to buy, I still think in the end, this is a savings for the district.
sorry. So in talking with staff at the elementary school, it doesn't seem that the vacuums that the elementary school currently has are working. I know staff has requested a purchase from an outside organization for a vacuum. So I just, if we can go back and verify that, yes, what is currently on our campuses does indeed work, and
For
if
sure.
not, find
That
a
has
way
not
to
come to
make that
me.
happen.
Yeah, that has not come to me. I will buy them as many vacuums as they need tomorrow.
Well, we probably need
Yeah.
quality, industrial ones.
Correct.
Can you please look and see where, like Libby said, that we're not in a contract with that other cleaning company? They were supposed to be working at the middle school.
We've worked with,
Are you talking about
Delta T is like a substitute service.
Yeah.
We've been using them this year,
Okay.
but there's no contract. So
Okay.
it's much like the subsystem. When we have somebody out, they send somebody in. Yeah, you don't know the employee. It could be different
Right.
employees, different days. So we need some consistency. We will verify, but I know we would have seen if we were under a contract.
And
We'll double
so-
check it, but yeah.
Will this cancel using Delta T then?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Do we have to give them any notification to cancel with them?
I do not, if we do, we may have, I don't believe we have anybody, maybe one right now. Those are all though temporary positions, fill-in positions. We also use them for long-term subs as well. So it would be, if we brought them in on a long-term sub, it's a little more complicated. But we will verify all that before we do anything. We'll also make sure Dave feels, that everything in there is good. Sometimes we can negotiate on a few things with Dave's language, which he's great at. But I did not want to incur the cost that Dave, his firm is going to charge us if there's no interest to do this. So once we're approved, then we'll have Dave go do that, and we'll be billed for that service. But it's worth it to make sure that we're not getting ourselves into anything. He's very good at giving me, this is what you got to think about, and are you good with that? And we're not into, I'm not really into the long-term contracts unless you have to be, because I like to have the flexibility to look for something that's
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, that is an action item. Do I have a motion to give Dr. J and staff approval?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion, I'll second it. So the motion is that the board
Approve a purchase.
approve the purchase over $100,000 for RNA facilities management. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Preschool tuition increase for 2023-24, Dr. J?
Yeah, Madam President, members of the board, yes, we are looking at moving the preschool tuition to $595 for next school year. It is currently at $560, and we believe it's important that we do raise it, but not to a level that we discourage families that we already have and not giving them enough notice where they budgeted for this. And the last thing I want to see is a kid not be able to come to our school over a tuition fee. So we believe in the concept of slower, gradual increases, giving our parents enough time and the ability to handle that. We've also looked at what other preschools charge, and we are very, very, very competitive when it comes to pricing.
Is that daily, monthly, weekly?
Yeah.
That is
I don't-
$595 a month.
Okay.
Yes. And we are going to be offering some before and after school care. We're working on pricing on that for now. But we need to get this out to families so when they register, right now we have current students in registration so far are already at or exceed where we're at today for next year. And we still have a long way to go until next year. So we're hopeful that the preschool enrollment will be up next year. And that, like I said, I believe all our enrollment may take a year for us to see all the work we've done, because things will still be under construction as people are registering. But I believe once they see these facilities and see what we're doing with them, that the following year the enrollment will go up higher.
I appreciate that the increase is not too large to scare anybody off in the beginning.
We wanted a 5 in front of the number.
Mhm.
What kind of tuition would we need to charge if we didn't want it to be losing money? Or how many students would we need? I know that those are.
Yeah, it's a balance of students versus, and then, the cost of running the facility. Tyler felt that he wanted us to move to 650. He felt 650, it would be, we'd be in a most likely a positive, a good shape. But I also believe that we have to always think about preschool is the future of our district, and every kindergartner, that we lose is about 75,000 in M&O for the lifetime of the student. So for everyone we save in preschool, and maybe, it's not a perfect alignment, but they all registered our kindergarten, that's where we benefit. So, and I believe a lot of parents are gonna be, there's a lot of issues, I think, for parents finding the right preschool or finding room in a preschool. And I'm excited that we're gonna be able, as a service for our community, to be able to take pretty much anyone who wants to come now. We're gonna have the space, the facility to do that. Hiring teachers might be another issue, I get that. But we already have some internal staff interested in the preschool if there is enough students to do that. And I believe moving them into preschool and hiring for a first or second grade teacher will be much easier to do. So we believe at least if it goes up another class and next year we're already set for that, it goes up 2, then Kaylee's got a lot of work to do to go out and recruit some preschool teachers.
Are there any other questions regarding the preschool tuition? Okay, hearing none. I recommend that the board approve the preschool tuition increase beginning with the 23-24 school year. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up are the policy advisories 740 to 741. This is the second read. We went through these at our last meeting. Policy advisory 740 is the exhibit IJLE, library materials selection and adoption. And policy 741 is the policy JFA BDA, admission of students in foster care, and the regulation JFA BDA, admission of students in foster care. Are there any questions or comments regarding these two policies? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion?
I move to approve policy advisories 740 to 741.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the information discussion items. First review of the 23-24 M&O and capital budget. Dr. J?
One more.
And you have the appeal to the county superintendent?
Yes.
Oh, thanks. It's not on my agenda, so, okay.
I don't have any
Thank you.
documentation.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I don't know why that's not on
No,
my agenda.
it's not added.
It was added.
It was added.
It was added on Monday, I sent out a new
Right.
packet, so you might.
I didn't have a paper, though, in the new packet outlining it when I asked.
No, I sent it as an addendum today.
Yes.
So you have that, Joe, you have that.
Yeah, okay. So the next action item is the appeal for the fiscal year 22 ESEA grant. Dr. J?
Yeah, Madam President, members of the board, yes. So this was an addendum at kind of the last minute because we've been learning a lot in the last couple of days about the grant funding for fiscal year 22. As part of the process, we have, when we're doing our grants, there's completion reports that have to be done at certain times. The completion report for this grant was originally due in December. They gave an extension to all school districts into January. So during that time, it allowed school districts, especially small ones like ours who don't have a grant writer or a grant person in that position, more time to get their completion reports done and get them turned in. During that time, Krista does our grants. Krista was able to get all the completion reports submitted, and it was submitted the day before the due date. Okay, so she had it done, it was submitted. The morning of the due date, she received an email from the county stating that, from an employee there, that it come to their attention that they had to approve all these completion reports by the end of the day, and that some would be completed later in the day, so if you don't see yours done, they'll be working into the evening. Ours was approved at 5:12 p.m., and the deadline was 5 p.m. So at this point, there is a possibility that the Department of Ed may not fund us for that money. So what we are doing is asking for the board to approve us to do an appeal, to state that we did have it in on time, we did have it in a day early, and everything was completed on our end, and that unfortunately the county representative was unable to get that into the system by 5 p.m., and therefore we don't believe that is an error on our part, and so that's why we're doing the appeal.
Are there any questions regarding the appeal?
And am I correct in thinking that you're going to try to get reimbursed for this amount if possible?
Yes, we are going to do everything we can to be reimbursed. I think it's, again, it's, you know, we're very fortunate to have employees like Krista who are willing to take on additional tasks. And grants is not something that is an easy task to take on. And she's been doing a great job in working with Tyler and finance and Alicia to get things completed. Like I said, if it was on our end that we turned it in a day late or past the deadline, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. We did get it in on time. We have documentation of that. It is now for us to make our appeal that we did everything on our end. Yes, could we have gotten it in a day before that? Maybe, yes, but we still got it in ahead of time, and therefore we believe that we should be funded, get our funding for that as a result of that.
I want to thank you guys for your due diligence, not only in getting it in on time, but in following up instead of just being like, well, we didn't get it. I think that's great. And with that, I move that we approve the appeal to the county superintendent for fiscal year 22 ESEA grant funding.
I second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up is the first review of the 23-24 M&O and capital budget under information discussion.
That's me cue up. I've kept it alive so that it wouldn't take too long. Okay, this is where, anybody have Microsoft 11? How do I get into my settings? My son updated this and now I don't know where my settings are. So I need to go to my screen.
See it on the other screen?
Yeah. I'll know that for next time. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, President Reed, members of the board.
Is that loud enough?
My name is Chad Moore with True Professionals Consulting. Tonight I'll be presenting the first look at the budget review for fiscal year 2023, as well as looking forward to 2024. First, let's look at the fiscal year 2023 budget timeline. So in Arizona, we have a unique budget timeline in which we follow these four main months. The first being June 22. This is when the district approved the 2022-2023 budget that we are currently operating under today. The next big budget timeline is in December of 22. That is a budget revision if necessary. Districts are required to revise their budgets if they are in excess of 1% of what they originally adopted. Fountain Hill Hills was not in excess of 1% of its budget, so the district did not have to do a budget revision in December. This brings us to the next main budget cycle timeline, which is in May 2023. This is required by every district in the state to do a budget revision to true up adopted budget numbers to actual 100-day ADM numbers, which is what Arizona school districts are funded on. Then finally, we will look at next fiscal year. We do it all again and go through the 23-24 proposed and adopted budget in June. Looking at the fiscal 2023 budget revision highlights, I have 4 main points of emphasis. First, the district saw an increase in enrollment from the adopted budget. That increase of 31.5 ADM, or average daily membership, shows the return on investment that Dr. J and the FHUSD staff have put into increasing enrollment. Second, the district is adjusting to actual budget balance carry forward from the fiscal 22 AFR. This equates to $384,000 of over budgeted budget balance carry forward. The district projected more than actually carried forward in budget balance for the prior fiscal year. Third, the aggregate expenditure limit, or AEL, is still at risk for many districts. Fountain Hills has approximately $2 million at risk if the legislature does not pass an exemption by a 2/3 vote. There are a few bills in progress right now that I am monitoring, but we are still approaching that March 1st deadline to get something done. Fourth, estimating ending budget balance carry forward for fiscal 23, the current school year, the district is anticipating approximately $1.5 million, or 13% of its total M&O budget. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, the district saw an increase of ADM to 31.5. I wanted to highlight this again as I presented this slide at the AFR presentation back in October. The district has been losing enrollment for the past 5 fiscal years. This 31.5 increase in ADM represents an increase of 3%, and more importantly, puts the district back on the flat and or increasing enrollment projection. So let's take a deep dive into the FY 2023 budget revision, specifically looking at the maintenance and operations budget. So back in July 13th of 2022, the district adopted a general budget limit, JBL, which is the sum of the state formula for school districts of $10,637,046. That budget had no current exemption for the aggregate expenditure limit. It also captured the increases in the FY23 K-12 budget bill. Now looking at the 2022-2023 estimated revised general budget limit, or JBL, we are taking into consideration the highlights that I just covered. So first, the increase in ADM of 31.5, the adjustment of the budget balance carry forward from fiscal year 22 of negative $384,987, and projecting the budget balance carry forward for fiscal 23 of $1.55 million, which is approximately 13% of the total estimated revised general budget limit. That equates to $10,973,042. The increase, or the difference between the adopted and the revised general budget limit is $335,996, or a 3% increase. Coincidentally, right in line with the 3% increase in ADM over prior year. So this is additional budget that the district will revise up to in May. All right, switching gears and looking towards next fiscal year. We look at the same Arizona budget timeline, but for fiscal year 2024. So you'll see the same 4 main months in the budget calendar. But we're going to be looking at the first bullet point and working towards the 2023-2024 proposed and adopted budgets. Looking at the fiscal year 2024 budget highlights, there's not much we know right now, but what I do know is a little bit. We are projecting for flat enrollment for fiscal 24. Projecting flat allows for an additional contingency into the budget. If enrollment grows, it will be a budget increase, and therefore, again, working as contingency for the district for next fiscal year. Second, we're projecting a 2% increase to the base level support, or BSL. This is the main multiplier in the state formula for Arizona State Public Schools. The 2% is a mandated inflation worked into state statute that indicates if inflation is over 2%, which we are realizing anywhere from 7 to 8%, the state has to, at minimum, provide a 2% inflation increase to the base level support. We're also monitoring legislation on the fiscal 2024-2012 budget. It's currently in progress, and if you watching the news or involved in the legislation, you'll know there's some contentious topics, and we hope to have a budget by July, but we may be in a similar situation as in years past, which has school districts approving a budget contingent on potential K-12 budget bills. Third, we do know the Arizona State Retirement System, the ASRS, which Arizona Public Schools are a member of, as well as employees, is increasing 0.012%. This is a small increase to the budget of approximately $12,000, but we do know our employees will also feel this increase. Fourth, the aggregate expenditure limit, again, will it be back in 2024, or will we have a permanent fix this year? Time will tell. Looking at the fiscal year 2024 maintenance and operation budget by the numbers, we look at the first 2022-2023 estimated revised general budget limit. This was from the previous slide. This becomes our new baseline when the district officially revises in May. Currently, we're estimating the new baseline JBL of $10 million, $973,042. Takes into consideration the 3 bullet points below, which is the increase in AEM, the adjusted budget balance carry forward, and the projected budget balance carry forward for fiscal 24. Moving down, we look at the 2023-2024, so next school year, estimated proposed general budget limit. We're estimating at $11 million, $90,082. We take into consideration the 3 bullet points, projecting flat enrollment for fiscal 24, a 2% increase to the base level support, and again, that budget balance carry forward of $1.55 billion. The difference between, new baseline and the estimated proposed general budget limit, as the district adding additional budget capacity of $117,040, which is 1.2% increase. I also wanted to look at the fiscal year 2024 district additional assistance or capital budget. So looking at the estimated revised capital budget for fiscal year 2022-2023, we are estimating a revised capital budget of $4 million, $98,655. This was the original budget adoption in July 2022. The district has planned a district consolidation, which has a tentative budget of $2.5 million. And we are budgeting for approximately budget balance carry forward of $1.2 million in fiscal 24. So a lot still needs to happen, but currently we're estimating the capital budget for next fiscal year to be $1.9 million. This is largely contingent on how much progress the district makes on consolidation. I've been working with Dr. J and the district architect, Orkut Winslow. Plans are progressing, and I know further board presentations will be had before a contractor is selected and construction begins. Just wanted to footnote in that fiscal year 2024 estimated capital budget of $1.9 million, the district received approximately $700,000 from the state allocation annually. So that estimated capital budget difference, again, a lot at play here within these last couple of months, so this estimate is very early. It's a reduction in budget capacity of $2,198,655. Again, this reduction is largely planned expenditures for the district consolidation. Lastly, I just wanted to highlight the budget calendar for both the budget revision that is working simultaneously with our budget projections for next fiscal year. Tonight, February 8th, you have heard the review of the fiscal 2023 estimated revised budget, as well as a first look at the fiscal year 2024 budget projections. On February 22nd, we will take a second review of the fiscal 2024 budget projections. On March 8th, we will look at a third review and ask the board for tentative approval of the fiscal 2024 budget. This tentative approval allows the district the authority to issue employee contracts for fiscal year 2024. In April, we have a tentative budget, tentative presentation regarding benefits, potential open enrollment changes for next fiscal year. And then lastly, in June, as I highlighted on the Arizona budget calendar, the district will officially need to bring the proposed and the adopted budget for approval. And again, this is the official timeline where we bring the formal budget forms. But if we do not have tentative approval in early March, the district cannot issue contracts for next fiscal year. Lastly, thank you for allowing me to present virtually tonight. If you have any questions, please direct them to Dr. J, and he will be able to relay those to me so I can address them at the next budget presentation on February 22nd. Thank you.
I like the second part where he said he could relay them to me. I just want to be clear about that one. The questions that we can take.
Good news, both houses did pass the 2/3. Now it has to go before the governor, which I'm sure he'll sign, so.
Yeah.
You got that behind us for another year.
Right. And I want to point out the increase in enrollment, right? You see that 31.5, what a difference that makes for us.
Yeah.
That graph, seeing it go the other way, I mean, brings a smile to obviously my face, but this is what we're doing with consolidation, is the hope that each year now, it keeps moving that way. And you can see how much increase of money that gives us to work with for teacher salaries, for expenditures. And yes, we are taking some money out of that capital, but also remember that there is about $2 million in impact aid in our accounts as well, which is another contingency. We can use that for almost anything. And that is thank you to Dr. Allen for the years in the past that he had saved that money to get us to, and any other finance person who did save that. It is important that we do that. And we will continue that process once this consolidation is done of saving for future expenditures so that we're not in a situation, where we don't have the funding to do it. So Tyler felt very comfortable at that 2.5 million, that it gives us enough room for anything that will come up or things that come up in the next year or so while we're regaining that money. And remember, we have not received impact aid this year yet. And that's another 500,000 that has not come in yet. So when that comes in, that account will go to 2.5 million and will be available for any purchases that we have. And we have been on top of that reimbursement. That has been my number one priority with Krista, is to make sure that is all done correctly and on time, and we have all that in place. So I just want to point out that hopefully we can all see that the importance of student count going green makes a huge, huge difference for the future of our district.
Other questions from the board regarding Tyler's presentation?
I'm glad technology took over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Krista, can you make sure the board gets that presentation? Yes. And also, I think you were out of the room when I asked for Mr. Hartman's to also be sent to the board. Okay, thanks. Okay, next up, we removed the procurement discussion, so we'll skip over that. Next up is IKA-R, incomplete grades. Dr. J?
We revised it, and we're here to answer questions you have. Mr. Alexander's here to answer questions you may have about incomplete grades.
Are there questions from the board regarding incomplete grades?
So I did not see the revision in my packet that included the clarification on the reteach period of the 4 weeks. It appeared to be the same as we saw in the work study.
Mr. Alexander, come on up.
I revised it.
No, it's okay.
I do somewhere. Give me 1 second.
Incomplete grades will result in a failing grade if not completed within the first 4 weeks of the following 9-week period. Is that what you
But
said?
the reteach was part of the
just
question,
reteach. Okay.
right? Because the reteach sessions may receive an incomplete grade until the session is completed. And I think that's where we were asking for the clarification as to what that session was.
It's the session, it's the reteach session is complete. So there is no 4-week timeline. We felt that having a 4-week timeline is a little too much to complete one reteach session. So it's once the reteach session is complete, then the incomplete grade comes off of the student record.
So how long is the reteach session? I mean, technically it'd be 1 day, right?
Correct. So Tuesday, Thursday's reteach.
Yep.
You miss one of those, the grade freezes, parents are notified, student now needs to make that up. As soon as they make it up, teacher unfreezes the grade is the concept.
How long do they have to make it up?
Yeah, I mean, do they have an indefinite time to make up that reteach session?
In the past, we've allowed students, yes, up until, typically we've allowed it up until the semester when it closed, because we wanted to allow them the opportunity to do like a Saturday catch-up room or something else along the line. So if we need to be more specific in that, we can be. That's why we bring it for more eyes to look at it.
Well, because otherwise, I mean, couldn't a student, if they missed the first one, couldn't they have an incomplete grade the whole semester or the
Right.
whole quarter or semester?
Until they make up that reteach session.
And that's the point of it, is to get them to make it up as soon as possible. The teacher's still calculating grades, the teacher still has that information for a parent if they want it.
Yeah, but somebody would have to reach out and track that information down as opposed to, I mean, at some point, there has to be a consequence for not making up that reteach. And just giving them an incomplete for a whole semester doesn't seem to be, some kids aren't gonna be motivated by that.
So what I've seen in the past is that, what I would like to do is, if approved, is to work with Power School to be able to put in, sorry, the ability to freeze the grade and that the parent is notified.
You need to get some water. I do. We'll grill Mr. Alexander while you're gone. Do you have other questions?
It was mainly that clarification point, because I don't think it's in our students' best interest to, the first week of school, miss an assignment and then not attend reteach, but continue to build on that. The purpose of reteach is to make sure they've understood before they move on to the next topic. So if we're moving on to the next topic and they still have that reteach open and an incomplete grade the whole semester, are we really doing what's in the best interest of our students and their learning ability?
When they do the reteach, are they eligible for whatever grade they get, or is there some kind of penalty if they haven't? Like I remember in high school, they'd be like, okay, you have a week before you lose 10 points or whatever. Yeah, you would, and it was like the highest you can get now is a B, or the highest you can get now is a C, the longer that you kind of put it off. Is there anything like
That's
that?
something different. That would be
Okay.
for, like, they didn't turn in the assignment.
Okay.
Totally different thing. What we're saying is that when we assign reteach, the only way it works is if it is a mandatory piece. You have to go. Okay? And so when you don't go, what is the consequence? Doing lunch detentions, after-school detentions, having the administration running around, catching all the kids is going to, in my opinion, is going to turn it into a negative program, and it's going to turn it into a lot of work for them. When we have worked through this in the past, we were able to say to students that, your grade, you can't finish this class till it's done, right? Now, I will tell you that the amount of kids that miss reteach was very low in the years I was principal, very, very low. And what we did to rectify that quicker was say, you have to go to Saturday now. It's a 3-hour, now it's no longer an hour, now you gotta go for 3 hours on a Saturday. And almost every parent you call and say, we care about your kid and we want them to be successful, they're gonna show up on Saturday. The parent's gonna drop them off and they're gonna be there. The kids shared with me over the years that they appreciated the Saturdays, they appreciated the reteach because it showed them that we truly are living up to what we're saying, that we care about you. Instead of just leaving you to fail, we're making you come back and do this. The percentage of kids that actually go to reteach when there's consequences involved in it is at the high school is going to be around 20 kids per session. It's not a big number. The first time we did it was 350. 350. And Dr. Sweeney thought I was crazy. And I thought I was too at first. But a month later it was down considerably. A month later after that it was down to 20. It hovered at 20 for many years. So what we're trying to do is put some kind of, for the student who doesn't go, we're trying to put something in that allows us to have some kind of, consequence for that and work through the teacher to be able to get that updated. So it really what it ultimately comes down to is, do we release the credit at the end of the semester? A kid never goes to reteach. We're holding that credit and saying, until you've made up this time or we've worked through the principal or administration, we're not changing that grade from an incomplete until that work has been made up. Once that becomes more and more the expectation and the rule across campus, kids will not miss it because they don't want to go through all that extra work. They want to get it done. The other piece of it is that it's on their time, right? When you do it during the school day, it loses all of its effectiveness. I've seen it in multiple situations. So being after school, we provide a bus, we alert the parent, it's mandatory, you need to go. But how do you, if you're gonna make it mandatory and they don't do it, you gotta have some kind of consequence. So we can continue to refine. It's not something that has to be done today, but we just want to make sure that the concept is in place of, the ideal piece would be for all the parents, they check their kids' grades frequently, and they pull it up and it says an I. That tells you right away, they didn't go to reteach. And now I can say to my child, you better get in and see that teacher now because I need that grade, unfrozen. And I need you to be doing it. But we're still continuing to grade, we're still continuing to keep up with everything. It's more of just an indicator to the kid that you gotta get back and take care of that.
Well, I do like the idea that you have an incomplete rather than an F, and that's it, so you're done. Because the whole idea is for them to really learn it. So if we give them time to do it, it's good. I do question waiting the entire semester. That's my biggest thing, that it's still a long time, as we were saying, you're building from one topic to the next, and then if you miss the first one and it's related enough where you need it, that's fine.
But the hard part about that is, so let's say they miss week 1's reteach, okay? They never come back. The grade still sticks, so they had to get under an 80% or they wouldn't be in reteach. So they say they got a 60. We do everything in 5, so 5-question quiz. So let's say they got a 60% on that quiz. If they never come back, the grade's just gonna stay at 60. If they come back, they can go all the way to 100. We change the grade for them. We give them the better of the two. So it's gonna stay the same, but what it's basically saying is that if you're not gonna follow rules, you're not gonna do that, you may lose credit now as a result of that. And that was the only way we found as a faculty, and spending a lot of time on this, was the only way we found that we believe will work without making it into constantly a negative of tracking students down, so.
And I'm good with that. I would like, if you truly believe that there doesn't need to be a consequence, that a student cannot go to reteach the first week and then at the end of the semester make it up, I would like to see updates on that. I'd like to know how many kids are taking advantage of that. It may be something that we implement now, or like when you're ready to implement this, and it may need revised if kids are taking advantage of that.
I agree, we can bring you data, it doesn't hurt any kid, all it does is help them, and that's what we're about.
Right.
And I can talk all day on zeros too, right? We do everything in averages, but as we're seeing with in most things in life, it's where you end up, not where you started. And so I'm trying to change that mindset a lot with our teachers, is that if we graded somebody on their ability, like getting a driver's license from day 1 to the actual test, and it was all on an average, most people wouldn't have a license, right? It's how you finish. And so we're saying to our kids, it's a journey, and you have to do all these parts in there. So nothing will hurt the student's overall grade. What it would hurt them is if they never make it up, they may be at risk of losing the credit, that's all, at the end of the semester. And so we have to have some teeth into it if we're gonna hold them accountable to it, because as soon as it becomes out there that you don't have to go, no one's going, right?
Right, I just would like to see how.
I agree.
I would like updates
Sure.
once it's implemented.
Yeah, we can track it.
And to Libby and Lillian's point, I think we just want to make sure that we're not causing a disadvantage for the student if they don't attend reteach, so they don't learn the principle or whatever they're trying to learn, and that it creates a hindrance in the next.
No, reteach actually prevents that from happening.
But I mean, if they skip it, are they gonna then be behind?
Then they'll do what
the
every
learning?
other school in America does. When the kids fail a test on Friday, on Monday, they're going to the next thing. Reteach is put in to stop that from happening. So if they don't go, yeah, they're gonna miss that opportunity, but then that's where we call the parent and say they didn't come. I've never had a parent say that they're not coming to reteach, ever. They love it, they know it's a good program, and they know it keeps their kids on task and working forward. Most of the parents, I'd say almost all parents, when you call them in Fountain Hills, are always going to say, if you think it's good for our kid, they're gonna be there and they're gonna do it. So we'll track data, we'll bring back a summary at the end of the year of how many kids are doing that, and we'll make adjustments as we go. Okay.
Perfect. My other comment on that is, I have a real issue with consistency. And so if one teacher, if this is going to be in our policies, I want all teachers to follow it the way it's written.
Yeah, we need to train, and in the past, we had someone like Jason Henslin who did all the tracking of reteach as part of his job. So we are continuing to refine. We brought it back this year, but we will continue to refine it and get it to where it's very smooth. And next year's schedule will also, as when we present, is going to give a lot more opportunity for kids to get to different subject reteaches that they can't get to right now, because that's important to me as well. Okay.
Any other questions regarding the incomplete grade? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the March 10th, 2023 half-day for all students. Dr. J.
Yeah, so on this, we're asking for the board to approve making that day a half-day for it's really only affects the high school students. So it'd be a 12:30 dismissal.
11:45.
Yeah, half days before noon.
Okay, so 11:45. So they're still getting their 4 hours in that is required, even though we're past the 100th day, and we've already been funded for that. I've checked with Tyler and Angie, our power school. So our K through 8 already have a half day, then they have teacher conferences. The teachers are working to schedule their conferences in times when they'll be done by that noon time on that second day. This is the Friday before break. This would allow the high school teachers to have, students would be dismissed early so that all of our staff could go to the new annual staff picnic. We did not have a calendar, we weren't here for the calendar committee in the past, and so I believe hearing all of the survey data, all of the conversations I've had, that it's important for our teachers to feel valued, to feel celebrated, and we're talking about teacher retention. This is a great opportunity for our town to come together for the staff picnic. So regardless of the time, Kiwanis, Rotary, Safeway, a couple of new businesses in town have all donated money to this. It will cost the district $0, and we have 70 teachers, already RSVP to come to it. 90?
Oh, 90.
Sorry. So
Okay.
what we'd like to do is get this off the ground this year, have our high school kids have a half day and give them a little work from home time the rest of the day to get caught up any assignments, any work that they need to do. We know a lot of them will be leaving for vacation early on a Friday before break, but we do believe that it will not affect our instructional minutes, and it's a good tradition that we're starting. Next year, we'll be presenting to hopefully a calendar that has a staff workday with no students in the schedule, where it'll be a workday in the morning for staff and the picnic in the afternoon. And our hope is next year that people will bring their families with as well and become a town event to celebrate teachers once a year.
Are there any questions about revising the calendar for the half-day on March 10th, 2023? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to policy advisories 742 and 743. This is the first read for these two policies. Policy 742 is Exhibit JHDEB, exclusions and exemptions from school attendance. The exhibit is being updated to avoid the potential that a HIPAA violation may occur. A healthcare practitioner notified ASBA that the previous exhibit required healthcare practitioners to disclose protected information. The exhibit now indicates that the disclosure to a parent guardian is permitted disclosure under HIPAA because it is being requested by the protected party. And we have copies of the new form. And on the new form, it says acknowledgement of disclosure of HIPAA protected information. The student, through their parent/guardian, is hereby requesting the below information for the benefit of the student's education. Disclosure is permitted by 45 CFR 164.502A. Are there any questions regarding this new exhibit? Okay, hearing none. This is, again, just a first read. We'll move on to the second one. Policy advisory number 743 is another exhibit, KBEC, parent parental involvement in education. State law requires schools to provide parents a way to request information that pertains to the parental involvement procedures required by ARS 15-102. Implemented in policy KB, this exhibit enables parents to request the relevant KB-related information and provides the school administration a mechanism to process and track requests for this information. The policy was updated in August. The exhibit conforms with the policy. You have a copy of the exhibit, and you also have a copy of the ARS 15-102, which basically outlines that a parent can request information and that the district must provide the information within 10 days after receiving the request for the information. The school principal or superintendent of the school district shall either deliver the requested information to the parent or submit to a parent a written explanation for the reasons denying the requested information. If the request for information is denied, or the parent does not receive the requested information within 15 days after submitting the request for information, the parent may request the information in writing from the school district governing board, which shall formally consider the request at the next scheduled meeting if the request can be properly noticed on the agenda. Otherwise, it would have to be discussed at the following governing board meeting after it can be noticed on the agenda. Are there any questions regarding policy, or I'm sorry, the exhibit KBEC for policy KB?
What would the reasons be for denying a parent's request for information?
Dr. J?
We love our parents and work really well with them, so I would imagine if it was something with, maybe something along the lines of school safety or something that was a violation of FERPA, but we would still work with our parents, so.
Because in this, it would be the parent requesting their own students' information, correct? So there should be no.
Unless there was a custody issue.
That's right. I was just gonna say, there may be, if there's any type of court order, even though they're a legal parent, they aren't necessarily always able to have that information.
Okay.
That's all I could foresee. We all have open doors to our offices.
Okay, any other questions regarding the exhibit? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the second read for policies. For policy 739, this is an additional read that we had asked to be brought back to the board at our last meeting when we discussed policies. This is a new exhibit, IHAMBEA, Family Life Education, and exhibit IHAMBEB, Family Life Education. This is regarding, the exhibits were, ASBA created exhibit subscribers that may be utilized to obtain mandatory parental consent if offering sex education curriculum and or referring students to sexually explicit materials. The policy was updated in August. The exhibit conforms with the policy. We were also sent the statute 15-711 after our last board meeting, where the state has already set a list of materials that they have deemed sexually explicit. Are there questions regarding this policy, the exhibits?
I guess my main question with this one is, even though we put the materials on display at the district office for a certain period of time, when we send this home to parents, is there a way for them to review it then? Because a lot of them might not have been involved with the original hearing and things like that. So is there a way for them to say, go and look and see what their student is going to be seeing?
Absolutely. Yes. So,
Do they have to request it, or is it going to be available?
2 weeks prior to the curriculum being delivered to students, teachers communicate that out to parents, and then at that time, parents they have that 2-week period of asking before it's delivered, and we see it. We also have the outline of topics because this curriculum is delivered in both 7th and 9th grade. It's different topics grade, but it's 7th and 9th grade is when it's delivered. That information is also on our website underneath the Student Services tab, so they can see an outline of what is covered in each grade level when it's delivered.
Okay, that's great. And then, as far as curriculum, is there additional resources that aren't considered curriculum that don't go through that process, or is everything that is used viewable to parents?
It is upon request, yes. And then we also have the textbook that is available at their discretion as well.
Chris, are there, so these two forms obviously deal primarily with sex ed. Is that only taught in 7th and 9th grade? Like, are there, is that what you said, 7th and 9th grade, right?
7th and 9th grade.
Is there any sexual education curriculum taught anywhere else in the grade levels that would require either one of these forms, or?
That's my knowledge.
Okay, so it's only 7th and 9th grade that these would really pertain to. Okay, are there any other questions regarding Policy Advisory 739? Okay, hearing none. That completes all of our information discussion items. Future action, if there's something you'd like to see on a future agenda, please contact Krista or Dr. J. Dates of upcoming meetings: Wednesday, February 22nd. We will have our work study session here in the Learning Center at 5 p.m. and Wednesday, March 8th, we'll have a business meeting at 6 o'clock p.m. here in the Learning Center.
Can I make a public request for an item on our work study session on February 22nd, just so it can be out in the public, update regarding the football field and what is happening, please?
You'll do that during your superintendent comments, please?
Absolutely. I should have plenty of information right now.
Great, thank you. I want to make sure our kids are able to play.
Safe.
Yes.
Anything else from the board? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're not giving Dana the option. Oh, that was a long one.
Yeah, it was.
There's a lot in there.
Information.